But in terms of the New Zealand Prime Minister wearing the hijab in solidarity, I think she was well intentioned. I think it was definitely a political statement, but at the heart of it, I think she was well intentioned. And I think that that needs to be said. I don't think she did it to be spiteful or malicious to anyone. But I think it also comes out of ignorance for what the hijab actually symbolizes. And many Westerners, many people here in the West, especially the liberals, think that hijab is a symbol of liberation for women when it is the complete opposite, because this has been peddled for like the last 10 years that hijab is all about modesty and liberating women's intelligence and not focusing on their bodies and things like that. Like we've heard those arguments. And as a Muslim, I used to make those arguments
Yeah.
for the last 10 years. Um,
Really? So
but
you actually
yeah,
made this argument that hijab is liberating. So this is what people call taqiyya. And to be honest, I've been
oh no.
hold
This
on,
isn't the
yeah. So I've
this,
been
let me,
humbled.
I'll go into Taqiyyah.
Okay.
I'll
Finish.
go
Yeah.
into Taqiyyah in a second. But these are the arguments that people used to make. And they're not, it's not technically Taqiyyah, because I'll explain what Taqiyyah is. Taqiyyah is not a Sunni thing. It's very much a Shia thing, and the only reason they do it is to pretend to be Sunnis in Sunni environments so that they don't get persecuted.
Mm.
Um, Taqiya, the recent uprising of Taqiya, I'm not sure where it came from because it was never something that we were allowed to do. What I would call it is a half truth. Because the hijab is meant to represent modesty, but it's also meant to represent controlling women,
Yeah.
which no Muslim will ever admit to. But that's what it is. At the core level of it, that is what it is. It was first established by Omar, actually, one of the companions of the Prophet, because he saw that women were, because back in the day they didn't have toilets in their houses, so they would go outside to, um, use the bathroom.
Uh-oh.
And
Uh-oh.
he would see them doing that, and he said that they should wear hijab so that they're not confused with slave girls that men would
Uh-oh.
rape
Mm.
at the time.
Mm.
So the hijab was meant to essentially break the society up into free women and slave women that men were allowed to
Yeah,
rape.
because there's
Um,
actually also saying like that one of the Prophet Muhammad companion beat one woman because she was a slave and she was wearing hijab. Because how dare
yeah,
you wear that? You're
I
not
think that was
allowed to.
Ali who did that actually.
Mm.
Um, don't quote me on that though. I'm just
No,
speculating,
no,
but I
Ali did
believe that
that.
was Ali.
Yeah, Ali. There's a couple of them who done it. I mean, Umar did the same
Yeah.
thing. But I'm still a little bit curious, Bella, when it comes to how do people. I mean, I don't want to put. One thing that people sometimes do when they want to help people that they care about is that they victimize them in a way that they really make them to a victim. I mean, some of them are survivors. Some of them are doing pretty all right. So I don't want to speak for you. When you see Westerners put on the hijab, it could be in Sweden, it could be in America, there's something called the Women's March once per year,
Mm.
or New Zealand. What does that say to you living in the Middle East from your perspective? You cannot speak for everyone, I
Um,
guess.
First of all, it gives me PTSDs because I was forced and beaten to wear it. And then of all, I know, as Faye said, it's from good intention, but you can
Hmm.
support those who choose to cover by not covering yourself. Like you can say, like, yeah, a woman is. I'm not saying the veil. I'm saying like the hijab, the clothes they put on their head. Um, but you don't have to wear it and use it as a sign of liberation because it's not.
Yeah.
It really isn't. And one of the biggest questions I had for when she did that is that if that was a man, would he have put on the hijab as solidarity? No, he
Yeah.
wouldn't have. So I mean, that just destroys the argument immediately. And
Mm.
I do believe that the reason she did that was out of good intentions, but it's because of the how ill-informed Westerners are about what the hijab is that they do things like
Mm.
this.
Because,
The
Yeah.
reason that the feminist movement has hijacked it and made it a symbol of women's liberation is because they don't understand what the hijab is and why it's implemented.
and I
And they don't want to listen to people who are tell like people like you, Bella, who are in Saudi Arabia and have to wear it, the people like you, they don't want to listen to that because they're too busy playing their identity politics game to
Yes,
care
yes.
about actual issues in the world.
So Angelo is writing in the chat that he don't believe it's from good intentions, and I agree with him half, and the other way half I don't agree with him. Half is
I
that
do
they
think
actually,
it has to
yeah,
do with an agenda as well. I do think that there was an agenda behind it, but I
right,
like to
right.
think of good in people.
So, but you also
Um,
said that they don't want to listen once you actually explain to them. So
yeah,
that part
because
is the
the
agenda part, right?
yeah, well,
Okay.
that's we're so quickly labeled as Islamophobes for talking about Islam. When if I said the same things about Christianity, if I sat here and I said that there's a verse in the Bible that orders women to shave their heads or cover it, I wouldn't get the same amount of hatred I get for
Hate,
talking
yeah.
about Islam and the hijab. With Muslim apologists frequently compare Muslim women wearing hijab to nuns wearing habits when it's not the same thing because you sign up to be a nun. You don't sign up to be a Muslim woman, at least not unless you convert.
Yeah,
If you're
the
born
non,
into a
yeah.
Muslim family, you are automatically a Muslim woman that has to wear the hijab. It's not the same as being a nun who has to go through so many different stages
Yeah.
of being a nun to then, wear the habit forever.
The
Um,
non-argument is it's a Zakir Naik argument. It's
it is a Zakir
basically
Naik
it's
argument.
basically a position you have in the church, and with that comes a lifestyle of celibacy. It's
Yeah,
not for everyone, and you can leave that position any day you want.
yeah.
So
And
it's Zakir
also
Naik. Yeah.
nuns have an active role in the community. It's not like they're restricted in any way from just going around or going about their day doing what they want. I've seen nuns in tube stations, on buses, reading books, joking, laughing. You don't really see the same behavior from, at least not from literalist Muslims who think that you have to have a male guardian wherever you go, you know. Um, so it's such an unfair comparison to say that wearing
Yeah.
the veil is exactly like being a nun.
It's not even close.